right, so do I think the PRL high volume intake is worth it? And I got mine from Two Step Performance. I know there's a few companies you can get it from. You can get it from PRL, Two Step Performance. There's a few other ones online that you can get it from. And so I got it, and I'm going to tell you if it's worth the price. And it's not a straightforward answer. I'm not going to drag this out. I'm not going to make a 20-minute long video, but it depends on what you're looking for. So for me, I just like having the whoosh noises and the intake noises that come with having an aftermarket intake. And so for me, it's definitely worth it, just for the intake sounds alone. Now, I wish it was a little louder. I talk about this a lot, but on my 2020 SI, I had a K&N intake, and it was quite loud. And I liked that about the car. I didn't have an exhaust done. I didn't have anything really besides a tune in the intake. And so having the intake definitely added a ton of sound that I really liked with that car. Now, this intake is nowhere near as loud as that one. When the windows open, you can hear the noises. When the windows are closed, you can hear them, but not like, it's not screaming down the road with whoosh noises and blow-off valve noises, which this car doesn't even have a real blow-off valve, but you can hear it. And so for the sound alone, I think it was worth it. In terms of spooling and building boost faster and things like that, I really don't think there's any difference. And the stock intake was perfectly capable. I believe they said it was like 400 horsepower or 450 horsepower, that the stock intake was fine and not really a restriction. So unless you're trying to make over that horsepower number, it really doesn't make that big of a difference. And this car is not making anywhere near that horsepower. So I don't see any differences with spool times or how fast it builds boost or anything like that. And so if you're gonna buy it for that and you want more power just from the factory, over the factory intake system, on a stock car or a basically stock car with maybe a tune, it may add the tiniest little bit of horsepower, but you're not really gonna notice small power increases like that. When you go from the standard Honda factory tune to TSP stage 1, you feel that difference. That's a big horsepower jump that you feel. But getting a few extra horsepower from an intake, and maybe you're not even tuning the car, maybe you're just putting the intake on it, you're gonna get the noises, and that may make the car feel faster, but it's not really going to change anything. It's gonna feel cooler to drive, but it's not actually gonna be any faster or anything like that you'd feel, at least. So you also have the intake temperature to consider. And I have a whole video on the intake temperature stock versus with the intake from PRL. And my initial impressions were that it didn't really do much. And I still don't think it does that much. I mean, it may be a few degrees cooler, and the number definitely drops when you're actually like driving and moving. But when you're sitting still, of course, there's not a ton of air flowing over the intake housing and everything like that. So it's definitely going to heat up a bit. Right now, my intake temperature at the air filter is 107 degrees. It is 92 degrees outside. So we have a 15-degree jump over ambient temperature to the intake temperature. And that's kind of understandable. I was kind of sitting still in the car with the car running for maybe 10 minutes. And when I got in the car, that number was 142 degrees. So it was very, very hot when I started driving. I've been driving less than 5 minutes, and it's already dropped to 107. Actually, right now it's 105, according to the Honda app. So it's definitely going down, and driving it makes it go down, which if you want, you can look at my other video, and I did a full comparison with driving with the intake, and I even have, I guess in the corner, the Honda app showing the live intake temperatures from the intake. So if you're looking for an intake that's going to drop temperatures, I'm in Florida, and it does drop the temperature a few degrees over stock. Right now I'm sitting still. We're going up to 116 degrees right now. I'm sure if I sit here until the light turns green, it's going to get even hotter. We're already at 118. But that's the cool part about this intake. When you're sitting still, of course the temperature is going to rise. The air that's in the engine bay is heating up. There's nothing really flowing over it. But as soon as you start driving again, the temperatures immediately drop, which is really cool. So right before we start moving, I'll tell you what the intake temperature is, and then I'll drive for about 2 minutes, and then I'll tell you what the intake temperature came down to. So starting to move again, and intake temperature is at 123. Immediately from that little pull, it went down to 114. So the more air you flow over the intake, the better the intake temperature is going to be. So after a bit, the intake temperature settled back down to 107 degrees. Actually, we're at 105 now. It's bouncing between 105 and 107. Really can't ask for more than that, because I know in this heat, the engine bay is probably pretty hot. So let me know what you guys think of the intake. Was it worth it? Was it not worth it for you? But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you don't want to subscribe, then please give this video a like. That helps the channel as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one.